Welcome everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday to you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host Trey Holiday, and I don't do this alone. Got to bring it on over to my guy, Big O. Hey, Big O, how are you? Happy Monday.
Trey Holiday, what's happening, man? Got a small echo back there. We'll see. We'll move around it though. How was your weekend, Trey?
You know what? I had a great weekend, man. Enjoyed myself. Some family time. How about you? Did you get to relax?
Not yet. No rest for the weary. I did a lot of interviews this weekend though, which was really good. So we got a lot of stuff for today's show.
Awesome. We're ready to get into it, man.
Right again. We just jump right into it, huh? Oh well, a few things. And before we do that, at the bottom of the hour, we have Julie C. So Julie C. She's been covering a lot of stuff around this solidarity budget. We kind of had Julie on the other day, and some technical difficulties and everything else. But it looks like the solidarity budget team, they're going to make they're having a press release at 12 o'clock. So, we always want to inform our viewers. So we thought it would be good to have Julie C come on beforehand and tell us what this thing is all about, because for the average person, it can get kind of confusing. There's so many coalitions. There's this, there's that, there's task force and everything else. So we'll be talking to Julie C. Also, before we jump into it, I want to say hello and good morning to not only everybody watching here in the Emerald City, but of course our viewership is going across the region. So a big shout out to everybody down in Pierce County and Snohomish County, Everett, and Tacoma, and in between, even over in Spokane, Yakima, the Tri-Cities, in Portland, Oregon. Actually, we'll be checking in down in Portland later on this week. So appreciate all your support here of Converge. And don't forget to tag and share. Like even right now, you go ahead and share this with somebody who could benefit from the Morning Update show. So
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. It's great to hear that our audience is growing like that. Oh, it's awesome.
yeah, thanks to you, of course.
You too, my friend.
All right, so man, so let's jump it off. So I was sitting minding my business as usual, and I came across something on Twitter that said, man, that it got me because it was like poo update, and it came from King County elections. I was like, why is King County elections talking about poo? What's going on? Unfortunately, it looks like in West Seattle over the weekend, somebody decided to basically put some poo in a ballot drop box. And what that did is also some people from the community, especially some of our community elders, have sent me a few messages saying like, man, what's going on with the drop boxes? Are the drop boxes still cool? Is it all right? Is it safe to vote? I reached out. I got to give these guys some props. I reached out to King County Elections yesterday on email, Sunday on email. They got right back to me. I said, well, you know what? I'd really like to do an interview with you guys so you can tell us what's going on, how secure the box is, how voting's going, and everything else. Fortunately, Kendall Hodson of King County Elections was able to hop on with me this morning, and here's just a clip of our discussion. All right, good morning. Here with Kendall Hodson of King County Elections. It's a lot going on. I know time is short this morning. Want to hit on a few points. First of all, Kendall, how is voting going in King County?
Voting is going fantastic. We asked voters to vote early, and they have absolutely responded. We have seen a record-breaking first weekend for voters turning in ballots. We saw 60,000 ballots picked up by teams on Saturday. We think we saw another probably 30,000 on Sunday, and then we got another 40,000 in the mail this morning. So just incredible turnout so far, and we're hoping that's going to continue.
All right, and so how can you tell us a few things about any challenges that you're facing, and as well as about security at the drop boxes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think things are really going smoothly. We do have 73 boxes across the county. We had teams out all weekend picking up boxes. We did have a couple reports of boxes filling up, which is great. We love when voters tell us that. We've got teams circulating, so it's pretty easy to redeploy them to get them out there as quickly as possible. So really going pretty well so far. And security really won't be on site until election day, when we expect the heaviest traffic. What that would look like is a plainclothes, unarmed, private security contractor that we're going to be using, and they're really there to de-escalate any sort of really passionate voting situation. So really they're just to help out more than anything else and give our team a set of extra hands.
Right. Now, we did see a report of a voting box being vandalized. If someone comes across something like that, what exactly should a citizen do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, kind of an unfortunate new one for us in West Seattle. And what folks can do is, if it's business hours, give us a call at 206-296-VOTE. If it's off business hours, honestly, social media is the fastest way to reach us. We're at King County Elections on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We've got folks monitoring that pretty much round the clock. So that's a great way to let us know if something's filling up or if there's a problem.
All right, last question. If someone doesn't have a ballot, if they have any kind of issues, anything like that, what should they do right now?
Yeah, if voters haven't gotten their ballot today, October 19th, they should definitely give us a call. Again, give us a call at that 206-296-VOTE number, or they can go online to our website and they can get a new one really easily. Not a problem if you haven't gotten it, but we do want to get a replacement out to you to make sure you can cast that ballot with plenty of time.
All right, Kendall Hodson, King County Elections. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that was King County Elections this morning. Like I said, unfortunately, somebody put some poo in an election box in West Seattle. They said that the ballots weren't damaged though, and yeah, I mean this has definitely been a wild election. But people are voting. It's a record number of people that are coming out to vote, not only here but across King County. Did you get your ballot, Trey?
You know what? I did not get it yet. What I did get was I got my pamphlet. So I'm waiting for my ballot. I'm going to check my box today. And if not, I definitely will be calling the number of.
Yeah, well, the best thing, we got the direct connect. You let me know. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
right.
We'll connect you with these guys over there. Remind everybody, no matter who you're voting for, please get out and vote. This is a very important time. And, if you have any issues, of course, you can King County Elections. If you got any questions, man, you can even email me. I'm down to help out, Omari at whereweconverge.com. But let's get out there and exercise our right to vote. Next up, I talked to Carolyn Bick of the South Seattle Emerald. Now, Carolyn has been following the story of Tommy Lay. Tommy Lay was killed by the King County Sheriff back in 2017. And Carolyn has stayed on this story as the story has taken lots of twists and turns. Originally, the King County Sheriff said that Tommy Lay had a knife, and then they later changed the story and said that he was holding a pen. And now, there's an outside consultant that said there may have never been a pen at all. And then initially they said that Tommy Lay charged the King County Sheriff, and then the sheriff had shot him because he was charging him with a sharp object that might have never been there. But in going through the documents, it turns out that the autopsy is saying that Lay might have actually been falling or on the ground when he was shot. There's also an issue of there was 4 or 5 bullets, additional bullets that were discharged that missed Tommy Lay. Some went into a house, some went into a car, everything else. Those extra bullets and the reasoning why the bullets missed the target were not investigated. And the latest article, and all this is on the South Seattle Emerald, the latest is that when the officers, the sheriff deputies involved in the shooting were interviewed basically in front of the review board, which happened almost 1 year after the shooting, no one took notes. So there's no notes as to the outcome. And so Carolyn Bick in the South Seattle Emerald, I mean, they've stayed on top of this story. And so I caught up with Carolyn yesterday, and Carolyn kind of summarizes some of the issues outstanding around this case, as the Lay family has filed a lawsuit that's getting ready to go to trial against the King County Sheriff.
And what Hayes concluded essentially was very different. That Lay, didn't have a knife, obviously, because later on it came out that, he didn't actually have a knife. We think he had a pen, or we're saying he has a pen from the King County Sheriff's Office. Hayes concluded that not only did he probably not even have a pen, based on the fact that the pen photographed at the crime scene by Deputy Adam Easterbrook was 20.7 feet away. And, they essentially reconstructed that. And depending, if you, given how hard Deputy Tanner Owen said he kicked the pen away from the kid, you can't get that more than, I think, 8.5 feet, Hayes concluded. But anyway, so he concluded that there probably wasn't even a pen, based on the bullet wounds, and the condition of the bullet themselves, he concluded that Lay was either falling to or already face down on the ground, which means that he was not shot in the torso, which is what he later found to term as a term the front of the body, not the back. And the autopsy report backs this up too. And that somebody may have, it appears anyway, that somebody tampered with bullet evidence, and that detectives did carry out destructive testing on what was claimed to be, evidence of a sharp scrape mark on a door frame.
So, like I said, there's lots of twists and turns here in this investigation of Tommy Lay. And, when talking to Carolyn Bick yesterday, there's been so many twists and turns. Like, someone first saying that he held a knife, and then saying a pen, and then saying maybe nothing at all. I would think that if Lay, who was part of the Vietnamese community, I think if Lay was black or even white, there'd probably be a lot more attention on this case, to be honest with you. And it's Carolyn Bick at the Emerald who just keeps digging through all these court documents, that's finding all this stuff out. But a lot of other media has been really quiet about what's going on here with Tommy Lay and the King County Sheriff.
You know what? Shout out to South Seattle Emerald for picking up a story, something that is definitely, going to be informative for all of us as we understand the inner workings of how these reports go through one iteration after another. There was mention of this in the candidate forum last night held by King County Equity Now in Africa Town. And Sade Smith brought up these very same things. You know what I mean? She was talking the very same things about how there is a misinformation in so many of these reports. So it's going to be great to see how this one, unfolds. Maybe they do uncover the real truth here. Oh.
Right. And Carolyn said that that they have another article that's going to be coming out in another week or two. The other thing Carolyn said is like they didn't necessarily have to be a sleuth to find this out. Carolyn went on Pacer, which has all these court documents. It's an online database of court documents, and Carolyn has just read through everything. And Carolyn is a bit surprised that, like I said, there's not more attention on this case, and it very well could be because Lay represents the Vietnamese community. Not so much known for being very vocal in these kind of situations here, but we're going to follow it up as usual. And people can read more about that by going to the SouthSeattleEmerald.com. Next up, I talked to the people from Disability Rights Washington. This was a real interesting story I knew nothing about at all. Apparently, children in foster care in the state of Washington, there's a number of them that are shipped out of state. The total number has actually come down over the years, but there's a number of them that are shipped out of state to a private company that's called Sequel. And what Sequel, according to Disability Rights Washington, has a very bad track record across the country, and they've actually had a child die in their custody, and they have a bad rap for restraints and very much a punitive kind of setup for children in foster care. Let me be clear. These aren't children in youth detention who have committed a crime. These are children who are wards of the state. And basically, the state of Washington is sending children out of the state to a private company for their care. So here's a few minutes right here from my conversation with Susan Cass, who is an attorney with Disability Rights Washington. So what I hear you saying is that the practice has been to send children that are in foster care, basically wards of the state, out of state for care, and out of state into a private company. And this private company, you're saying, has a lot of issues. Can you talk about some of the issues that you found with Sequel?
Yeah. So I think, the most recent thing that happened was, it was in the news. It was a really tragic incident where a young man was being restrained by staff, and he unfortunately lost his life. It was a terrible, terrible incident. But the thing that was very disturbing is that when we have investigated other sequel facilities, this is one of our concerns, was the overuse of restraints where staff would physically handle young people, often for reasons that were not related to immediate safety concerns. It seems to be a pervasive problem of staff really kind of abusing their power, and so that's the number one safety concern. The other concerns are these are institutions that are very, very restrictive. Young people have basically all their freedoms taken away, and they don't go to school in public schools. They have to stay on campus. There's very strict rules about whether they can talk to each other. It's a very, very restrictive, almost punitive. I would say in some ways very punitive setting.
And so it's a punitive setting for young people who I mean, don't deserve to be in a punitive environment. These are young people who are in foster care.
Correct. Yes. So these, a lot of, I would say the majority have already experienced, some form of trauma. And so this is, I think being separated from your people, your own community, is traumatic. And then on top of that, having to live in these conditions and then being at risk or having to experience the kinds of restraints that we were hearing about and seeing recorded in records and videos. These are the kinds of things that we don't believe young people should have to, any young person should have to put up with.
Right. And now you talked about wanting Governor Inslee to act. What kind of communications or efforts or petitions or letters have you guys sent to the governor?
So we have sent one statement to the governor. It was signed by our organization, and I think I want to say 17 or 18 other organizations that represent and advocate for young people. And then we have also made it available online. So if other people want to send their own letters, and I don't know how many people have at this point, to the governor to make the same request. We've also made the request directly to the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which is the state agency that cares for foster children, and have asked them to stop using sequel facilities, and they are evaluating that request. We decided we felt like there's enough reason to make the decision now, so we wanted to ask Governor Inslee to take action.
All right, and you see now they're asking Governor Inslee to take action against sequel and bring the foster children of the state of Washington back to Washington State. And it was a fairly long conversation there with Susan Cass, and we'll actually be putting that up on across our social media so people can see the whole interview. But the thing that really surprised me in the conversation was she described a real punitive environment for children that are in foster care.
Yeah, and that's something that, this is another thing that a lot of folks are not aware of. So I think this entire thing is us literally uncovering something that most folks did not know. I didn't know this before we're reporting on this, that majority of those kids are getting shipped out. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of these kind of tertiary liaison types of services that end up getting private contracts where a lot of the money is still coming from, budgets within that come from taxpayers. So once again, this is something that it's great to know where our money is going and how we're actually caring for foster children. This is something that I'm glad we're putting a light on, because I don't agree either. I think that they should definitely be within state care if able. So, and if not, any third care party that they use should definitely not be using punitive measures. Oh,
right. And foster care was actually one of the first things that we talked about on the Morning Update show when this show launched back in March, how COVID was impacting children that are in the foster care system. We definitely want to keep an eye on this and see, what action Governor Inslee and the Department of Youth and I think it's Youth Family Services down in the state of Washington takes towards sequel. I've also sent sequel an email, so we'll see if they get back to us as to what they have to say about this. But I think no matter where people are at these days on the spectrum, I think most people would agree that most children that are in foster care, a lot of times, man, they're not there for any fault of their own. And like Susan said, they've already experienced some sort of trauma being in foster care. So we'll continue to follow up with Disability Rights Washington as well as Sequel Care. Another one here, the federal lawsuit that business owners and residents in Capitol Hill have filed against the city of Seattle. It's the CHOP lawsuit. That big lawsuit about the CHOP. It's the judge in federal court made some preliminary rulings on some motions that were set forth. Kind of a mixed bag, I guess, as Kevin Schofield would say. That's who I talked to. But the biggest thing is that some of the main points of this lawsuit can actually move forward. And so, of course, the city wanted a lot of stuff thrown out. A few things did get thrown out. But I talked to Kevin Schofield the other day about the heart of the issue in front of the federal judge.
And in this case, they say what the plaintiffs have said is that that the city was an active supporter of CHOP. They said, hey, look, they gave them barricades to block off the streets. They gave them a medical tent. They gave them a bunch of medical supplies. And the police department and the fire department had stated no response policies to the CHOP area. They weren't going to go in there if they got 911 calls on it, right? So for all those reasons, it looks like the city is really an active supporter of this, and therefore it's okay to sue the city. And the judge said, yeah, that's plausible. Yeah, it's early days, and the city may come up with better reasoning and better facts to show that they really weren't an active supporter. But for this really, really early point in this case, that is entirely a plausible and reasonable thing for the plaintiffs to be saying. So no, I'm not going to dismiss this case. It goes on.
So this lawsuit's going to move. I mean, there's going to be so many lawsuits against the city. Why this one, what Kevin pointed out, is important, though. Like you said, it's early on, but right now, what the plaintiffs are saying, the business owners and residents who brought the suit are saying is like, hey, city of Seattle, you guys were participants in the CHOP. Like you said, you gave them barricades, you gave them porta potties, you serviced the porta potties, you negotiated this, you negotiated that. The Seattle Police Department clearly, drew a map saying where they would go and not go. They coordinated Medic One, where Medic One would pick people up and not pick people up. And so the plaintiffs are saying that the city of Seattle actively encouraged the CHOP, and thus they're liable for any outcomes there. And you got to remember, this is just the business owners. You also have, Donita, who's Lorenzo Anderson's mom, and also Horace. That's two lawsuits right there, and wrongful death. There's all kinds of other lawsuits that are out there. It's a ton of litigation that's floating out there around the CHOP.
Yeah, so many cases for us to, stay close to, make sure that we keep folks informed, because you're right. That entire time up on Capitol Hill is really wrought with a lot that's going to have to be cleaned up after the fact. This is what a lot of people were talking about during CHOP. How much more we're going to have to endure with all of this and all the things that come after. So once again, more things for us to follow up on.
All right, I see a comment right here I want to put up. Peggy Hotis, what's going on with the investigation into the teenager who was shot in the car at CHOP? Any suspects? So, first of all, let's say his name, Antonio Mays Jr. He was 16 years old, who was killed there in the CHOP. Now, the last time that we talked to the Seattle Police Department public information officer was that there was no suspect in this case. Now, there is a suspect out in an arrest warrant that the prosecutor put out for the individual that murdered Lorenzo Anderson Jr. There's also, I think, some suspects in custody for the shooting that occurred the same night that Lorenzo Anderson Jr. was murdered. Now, with this case right here, Antonio Mays Jr., who was shot there at the CHOP, it's always, we was there, so it always gets to me when people, we talk about this and everything else. But we'll check back in with the PIO, and we stay checking in to see if there was any update on these cases. So there's the answer to your question. I don't think there's been no suspect name that's been released in the murder of Antonio Mays Jr. Moving on here. Keeping it up on, I know when we talk about these people don't realize that it's like there was the other news that reported on these after the fact, but there was us who saw all these things occur right in front of us, including being there on the freeway and everything else. And I know Peggy didn't mean any whatever by that's a good question, but it's a lot of people who send me messages because they want to further their agenda. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's wild. But man, believe me, we these guys they never leave us. And what we saw and witnessed there with our own eyes in the CHOP, I don't think it's ever going to leave us. And our concern for all of these people, it's never going to leave us. So believe me, we're just as interested in justice being served for all of these families as all of you guys are that are watching here. Yeah. All right, what do we have next? Well, what we have is, this is actually off of Twitter. It looks like there's different arrest tactics happening up there on Capitol Hill right now in regards to the protesters, at least the end protesters. And like I said, there's a lot of different groups protesting, a lot of different tactics. This came off of Twitter, and actually an article from the CapitolHillSeattle.com website, and it shows just a few seconds here of arrests made on Capitol Hill.
He's not fighting!
Everybody go back to the officer.
Get your arm behind your back. Get your arm behind your back.
Keep moving.
Hey, stop grabbing my hand!
Yeah, and keeping it up on and basically, I mean, the tactics, and I think you heard Chief Diaz was talking about this in the press conference the other day. Different tactics now up on Capitol Hill. There's been a lot more mass arrests. They're taking 5, 6, 7 people. The other night, they detained about 15 to 20 protesters who were, the police said, were throwing trash over the cement barricade, and so the police detained about 20 of them, and I think ended up arresting 3 or 4. So it's still active up there on Capitol Hill right now. What else do we have here? This is actually switching gears a bit. Let's take it off the hill for a second. Erica Barnett. So Erica Barnett, she's the editor of Publicola, Publicola.com. It's a news website. Erica Barnett, she tweeted the other day that, when we talked about the graffiti at Mayor Durkan's house, she tweeted the other day that there's a political action committee basically in Seattle that's trying to blame the graffiti on Sawant, Gonzalez, and Mosqueda. And so, I happen to be on Twitter. I'm telling you, I be on the feed these days. I was never really a Twitter head, but I happened to see Erica Barnett's tweet, and I reached out to Erica for her to explain it. All right, here with Erica Barnett, editor of Publicola.com. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So I was on Twitter and I came across this tweet right here that's on your page, and it says, the ongoing campaign to blame women of color on the Seattle City Council for misogynistic, offensive graffiti on the sidewalk near Mayor Jenny's house is baseless and reprehensible. Tell me about it.
So there is a group called Neighborhoods for Safe Streets, which started out as an anti-bike lane pack up in the North End. And they have turned into sort of an anti-Lorena Gonzalez, anti-Teresa Mosqueda, and anti-Shama Sawant pack. And what has been really frustrating to me is I get their emails, and for the last couple months, they've been emailing, sometimes several times a week, saying that all this stuff, all these protests, which they obviously disagree with very strongly, but blaming them on these 3 council members that fundamentally have nothing to do with them. And that particular tweet was expressing my frustration with some graffiti. There was some graffiti outside the mayor's house, some of which was misogynistic. And the people behind this sort of email campaign are trying to blame this graffiti in some way, shape, or form on these 3 women of color council members that have absolutely nothing to do with it. Now, I mean, to be clear, I disagree with using misogynistic, language, graffiti, homophobic language, graffiti, to make a point, which I think the point in this case is the same point that that protesters have been making for many months now, which is, defund the police, and they want the mayor to resign. I don't like the way that whoever put this graffiti outside the mayor's house is making their point, but the tweet was mostly about the group that is trying to tie this stuff back to these city council members. And by the way, the group is a PAC that supports the mayor and wants to get her reelected, and that supports Councilmember Deborah Juarez and wants to get her, not reelected. I don't know if she's running again, but supports her.
So basically, Erica Barnett's saying that these guys are using this opportunity to kind of throw Sawant, Mosqueda, and Gonzalez under the bus regarding this graffiti that's occurring out at Mayor Durkan's home.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty clear and evident to me. Once again, I mean, the 3 of them, being accused of inciting this just doesn't really sit well with me, honestly. I understand that their positions are strong. I understand that they, really do seem to be a lot of them, we're seeing their decisions more and more really siding on the side of community. But ultimately, to say these women of color are responsible, to me is senseless. Makes no sense.
Right. Well, now Sawant did lead a march out there to the mayor's house earlier this summer. So I mean, the council member was out there. Now, whether the council member is still, is telling people to go there, and to be fair, the council member, when Sawant was leading all that, the council member never encouraged anybody to do graffiti or to vandalize or to do anything like that. So, we'll continue to follow this up, as usual. Wow, this hour is scooting by. We still got a lot more stuff here, but we got Julie C. Who is here, and Julie C. has been hanging, and hanging is the wrong word, doing some reporting around what's going on with the solidarity budget. And so we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk to Julie C. so we can get some kind of understanding for our viewers as to what this solidarity budget is all about. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
My parents coming over here as refugees meant that they didn't really have anything when they came to America. Having reliable healthcare and having a reliable doctor was really important. Gongdong kutoy.
O de社区, o de 诊所. Mi comunidad, mi clínica.
My community, my clinic.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right. Just a reminder, we do operate here off of donations and your support. Please feel free to support independent media. You can go to whereweconverge.com/donate. And also you can support us by rocking some Converge gear. I've got on No Excuses today, but you can find the link. Get you a Converge t-shirt, a hoodie. I think we might have some raincoats coming soon, because the weather's changing. But appreciate your support. Please keep supporting so we can keep bringing you the news. That being said, Julie C., welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Trey. Good morning, Amari.
Yeah, I think we need some elbow room here.
There we go.
There we go.
My face is so big here.
All right, so Julie, it's a lot going on now. There's this solidarity budget. I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, man, solidarity budget's been going on for months. You just don't know about it. Which is okay. I don't know everything. Julie, what is this solidarity budget? I know there's a press conference here at the top of the hour, but tell us what the solidarity budget is all about.
Yes. So as you definitely know, Jenny Durkan announced earlier this month her proposal for the 2021 budget, which of course the big buzz around it was the inclusion of $100 million in quote unquote new investments for originally she said Black communities. Now it's been brought into by POC communities. And this promise was made back in June when people have said this was a reaction to ongoing protests. People have said this was a desperate move to end CHOP. But for whatever reason, this promise did make it into the proposal that she gave to City Council. And so what the solidarity budget is not a budget itself. It's really just a call to action to make sure that it's a vast coalition. It's been about 100 small businesses, environmental justice organizations, art and social justice orgs, youth and human service, and bunch of different organizations and people who want to break the cycle of reactive and performative politics in Seattle and move forward with a more inclusive and transparent process. And so they really came together around three common priorities, which is, of course, challenging systemic anti-Black racism, but also rising to the challenge of climate crisis and rising to the challenge of COVID-19 economic crisis. So that's hopefully the big synopsis. There are 6 specific recommendations. So what's happening this week is that Seattle City Council is going to be proposing amendments to the budget that Jenny Durkan has put forth. And so this is pretty major. The decisions that are made this week are going to impact things for a long time to come. And so the 6 big amendments are that the solidarity budget is pushing is divestment from SPD by 50%.
Hold on, we might have that. Let me see if I can put it up.
Okay. We have some slides. Yes, there we go. Divesting from SPD by 50%. In addition to the $100 million in commitment that is not currently planned to be coming from the policing budget. The second is participatory budgeting, that funds allocated for community are done through a really community-driven way versus a task force way. The KCEN research team is actually doing a teach-in on this at 3:30 today, which to elaborate more on the difference between participatory budget and what the mayor has been proposing with the task force. 3 is preserving vital public services. We've seen in the headlines last week, 30 million of the 100 million that Durkan is talking about now is supposed to come from is slated to come from an equity fund that already exists. And we're seeing that she's pulling from transportation, parks, emergency COVID relief to create what is supposed to be new funds. So making sure that these vital services are preserved is on this list. For increasing the community access to dignified emergency shelter and affordable housing and decriminalize homeless services. One of the gains from the 2020 budget was the elimination of SPD's navigation team, which was responsible for doing the homeless sweeps. This coalition is asking for the budget this year to redirect those funds into community-led solutions to homelessness, led by folks that have been doing this work for a long time on the ground level. The 5th one is New Green Deal, and to fund the work of community people that have been fighting this for a long time in the Office of Sustainability and Environment, because oftentimes what we see is it's the people from community who do that uncompensated labor that turns into policy. And so in order to have truly equitable oversight for how this is implemented, this is part of the amendments that's being asked. And the last one is to curb the criminalization of poverty and mental health challenges with actual changes to the city code. So that's a synopsis. They're going to talk more about it. You're going to hear from a lot of different people in that 12 o'clock press release. It's going to be folks from Climate Justice for Black Lives, Labor for Black Lives, Africantown Land Trust. Trey's going to be in that conversation, Puget Sound Sage, Duwamish Valley. It's just a broad base, and it's really encouraging to see this come together in this way, because I think it's the type of systemic change that we need in our city process to really see some lasting transformation.
So, Julie, all right. So, first of all, I'm glad that we cut the first segment short because that was a long explanation. so we had time for it, but it's in depth, and you went over all these points. So, Solidarity Budget is more of a coalition of agreeing of people who agree about different ideas. The Solidarity Budget is actually gonna, say like, man, we think that this money, 10 million should go here, 5 million should go there. Could you clarify that?
Yes. So the Solidarity Budget Coalition is asking the people of Seattle to come together to support these 6 amendments. So the participatory budgeting itself, as a part of one of the amendments, is where community can come in and be a part of allocating funds. So that's the tie-in, I guess, on that level. It is not a budget itself, it's a call to action.
Right. And why do they feel the need? There's already so many different coalitions that are out there. Some of them people know, like King County Equity Now, some that are smaller. Why not just roll what they're trying to do into an existing coalition that basically already exists, as opposed to, another, it's like another thing to keep track of, which is cool because I keep track of a lot of stuff. But all I'm saying is a lot of the ideas that Solidarity Budget is talking about are ideas that other coalitions are already talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that for this process of this coalition, that's sort of the point, in that what we saw in Durkan's first budget proposal was really pitting communities against each other. So some of the money that was to be promised to community to deal with anti-Black racism systemically was being pulled from money that was supposed to go to housing or money that was supposed to go to New Green Deal. And so what this coalition is doing is really saying we stand together in dealing with these 3 issues and these 3 values as a priority, but in an intersectional way. And so it's not going to be my issue or yours, but these are our shared values. And so that's, I think, the distinction here.
How much juice does Solidarity Budget have at City Hall? You said that you want these 6 amendments passed. You guys got some juice down there with the city council members?
I mean, I think we're going to see. Because I believe that City Council is pretty supportive of the objectives. This isn't too different from what we saw in, the City Council's ideas for how they were going to move forward with 2021. So that's part of it too. I think City Council is supportive. Durkan is probably going to be a different story.
Why would the mayor? Let me stop you right there. So, I mean, I'll put this back up here. Clearly, divest from SPD. That's one thing that the mayor has wanted to go a different route. But a lot of this other stuff, I mean, the mayor said that she was open for participatory budgeting on $100 million. I mean, clearly wants to provide services. I mean, some of this stuff is stuff that almost anybody would be like, yeah, hey, sounds like a good idea. We do want a better environment. Let's give the homeless some dignity. What else is in here? Preserve vital public. People need public services. Access to emergency shelter and affordable housing. The mayor might say, hey, they keep rolling out affordable housing. Curb the criminalization of poverty and mental health struggles. So, I mean, do you feel that Mayor Durkan would be 100% proposed to these 6 amendments that you put forth? I think we could assume maybe on the divest SPD, but in one way or another, especially when you talk about affordable housing, somebody like the Office of Housing is continuously trying to develop things. So, do you think that the Solidarity Budget has already said, man, there's no way that the mayor's going to jump on board? Is foregone conclusion?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the point. I think the point is more standing in solidarity with some of the parts of the budget that she is more resistant to. And I think that, obviously divestment in police has been the big sticking point.
And that's why they put it at number 1 on the list.
Exactly. Huh? And it's really just showing our community, these organizations, this coalition that pulled together 100 signatures in, I think a weekend, really supports divestment as a part of all these other issues of equity. It's all interrelated. And I think that's the point.
One quick question. I know Trey had some questions here as well. But is the Solidarity Budget Coalition, have they reached out to the mayor's office or to the different city council's offices to have a discussion?
I believe so. I believe that, yeah, I think that this is going Monday. I mean, the new press release, I think, is it will be the second statement that was released, but the first public debut of this conversation. So I believe that we'll see.
I think that it would be interesting to see now if guys have a proposal here and amendments that, clearly you need cooperation in City Hall. Let's see who's open to actually sit and discuss on these things and see how I can move it forward. I'm sorry, I've gone over time, but I'm not taking your time, Trey. We're just going to move another segment till tomorrow. I know you had some questions.
I mean, for me, Julie C., thank you for coming back on to really explain this. I think it's important for folks to understand because Omari's right. Some of the nuances between, DCRIM or King County Equity now Solidarity Budget. Mm-hmm. But I think that you really have, explained it well to say, look, this is actually even a larger endeavor where we're bringing on more people, more coalition members. And I wanted to just give you some time to explain that because we do have large coalitions with DCRIM and County Equity now. But I think that when we bring in, folks who have been working for Green New Deal, I think about organizations like Front and Centered who have been at the forefront of a lot of that work. And really, this is showcasing that there is a larger form of solidarity around these specific issues. And is that the way that, the Solidarity Coalition team kind of wants to people to understand this particular call to action?
Yeah, I think you just said it and summarized it much better than I did. But yes, exactly. Definitely KC Equity Now, Decriminalize Seattle. These are people who are part of this broader effort. But also, we have groups like there'll be people speaking today from the Department of Public Defense and Freedom Project and people from New Green Deal. And so it's really just to show this coalition sees all these issues as interrelated. It's not separate from systemic anti-Blackness. It's not separate from divestment, from SPD, and standing together to make sure that these values really, the rubber hits the road with the 2021 budget is the objective of this effort.
Yeah. And my last question for you, Julie C., because I know you've been out here on the grind, in community, working on community solutions. What really brought you into this solidarity budgeting team and to push this call to action for yourself?
For me, I've just tried to get it where I fit it and support. I definitely was our coalition, Artists Coalition for Equitable Development, was been supporting KCEN and efforts for equity in this city for a long time. And so it's just what I'm inspired by, particularly with the solidarity budget, is really seeing it framed in a way that is inclusive of all these issues and pushing the city towards a participatory process for 2021 that could really change things for a long time to come and change how task force and what is often called the Seattle process sometimes keeps us in these very superficial conversations of equity without actually having actionable results. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Julie C., I guess we'll check it back in with you as you keep your ear to the ground and your finger on the pulse and let us know what's going on with the solidarity budget. Also, let us know if you find out if these guys have officially reached out to each of the city council members and reached out to the mayor's office. It'd be interesting to find out if there's any traction or where there's points of agreement or points of disagreement or where things can work. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, the Morning Update Show returns.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury.
And I'm Trey Holiday.
Yay, holiday. So, yeah, I was doing a show the other day with Julia, Jesse, and Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald, and I mentioned that they were talking about fracking, and somebody was like, "Well, man, I don't know about fracking." I was like, "Yo, I went to school for geology, so I started breaking down all this fracking." And somebody was in the comments like, "Man, you ain't no geologist. You don't know anything about geology." And so, I had to go deep on him. It's not even Thursday, but here's the throwback. That's me right there in the Environmental Research Lab at Elizabeth City State University in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, in the year 2000. One more time on him. You see how fresh I looked back then?
So clean, though. So clean.
So I've got a degree in geology and a minor in environmental science. And the whole time I was in college there at Elizabeth City State University, I was there on air at WRVS 89.9 ECSU, Black College Radio, and it's kind of propelled my career from there. So yeah, I'm this media guy and everything else, but at my core, I'm a real deal scientist, and that's my first love.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you know how to blend it, bro, and make it work, and bringing us stories that actually touch on the subject matter, and you have some subject matter expertise. So we appreciate that on the show, man.
All right, got a few things from the first segment that we bumped down here to the third segment. And speaking of Julia, Jesse, and Mike Davis, we've been following this conversation about Ice Cube, and his people meeting with Trump or not meeting with Trump, and the Platinum Plan and the Black Plan for America and everything else. And so last night we watched some of the tape, and some people are saying that Ice Cube was just platforming Trump, and then other people are saying it's like, man, let this black man talk to whoever he wants to talk to. And so I threw that question out to Julia and to Mike. All right, here with Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald and Julia Jesse of Converge Media. How are you guys today?
Good. How are you, Omari?
Yeah, man, making a living. Let me jump right into it here. So this Ice Cube thing, we talked about this a few days ago. It's still growing. And it kind of like you're getting two camps here. You're getting one camp that's saying that Ice Cube is basically platforming Donald Trump and being used by the Republicans. And then you got another camp who's like, man, let this black man speak his mind. Not everybody has to step in line with the Democratic Party. Mike Davis, first to you. What are your thoughts?
I'm definitely in that second camp. I mean, I don't understand why people are jumping so hard on Ice Cube. He has a plan. He took his plan to the powers that be. Trump is the president. If there's anybody that can enact these plans right now, it would be him. Now, whether you trust Trump or not, that's a separate conversation. But if you have a plan and you think that it will legitimately help your people, you take it to the most powerful man in the country. It's a no-brainer.
All right, Julia?
I'm in full agreement with Ice Cube at this point. I think when we had this conversation beforehand, I really didn't understand his stance. But listening to this conversation that he had, I'm really in full support of what Ice Cube did. He had a plan, he had an initiative, and based on what he's saying, he said that he presented this idea to both parties. And, he went to who's in power right now because he's willing to work with either party. And I think when we talk about the black vote and we talk about the black agenda, regardless of whoever is in power, we do need to get our needs addressed. So kudos to Ice Cube for being the one to do it.
All right. We'll keep following this story. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
All right. So Mike and Julia, the best thing is about those two. Super opinionated.
Well, it's great to hear, where this is going. I think that once again, we're seeing this election really ramp up. We're seeing a lot of celebrities throw their voices in, getting their fans to understand how important this election is. We've heard, Ice Cube has been vocal on Instagram, putting his videos out there, letting folks know, hey, how he feels about social justice issues, how he's feeling about the political climate right now. He's been talking about the fact that Biden needs to come with a serious black agenda in order to really attain the black vote. It can't just be that he is Trump's opponent. He's been saying that. So the fact that he's come up with a plan, is trying to move it forward. I mean, kudos to him for trying to, do what he can.
Nah, man. Well, I was watching Roland Martin yesterday or 2 days ago. He was breaking it down, and actually, Biden his plan's pretty comprehensive. And we looked at it, so maybe I'm gonna clip something out. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But like for me, I'm just like, people are always trying to tell us who we can talk to or who we can't talk to. You know what I'm saying? And so like that kind of rubs me when someone's like, you can't talk to this person or that person. And I think Mike Davis hit it on the head. He's like, man, whether you trust who you talking to is totally separate than you talking to them or whatever. You got a lot of people who are like, man, Ice Cube's been rich for like 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Is he representing this? But then Don Lemon, man, it's a whole nother show. That's why we do the show with Mike and Julia, because Don Lemon was throwing so much shade on Ice Cube. He was like, yeah, basically this guy's uneducated. He's ignorant. It was bad. Moving on, before we get out of here, we were in the midst of covering Seattle protests and everything else. There's been a lot of cool stuff that's come out that I just missed, I'll be honest with you. And so I'm all the way back in August right now, just kind of looking at things. Hopefully I get caught up here in October. But I saw that National Geographic released their trailer for an upcoming show they called Genius. And the focus is on Aretha Franklin.
A marker.
Jab. Here we go. And action. The Queen of Soul.
I was looking the word up, genius, an exceptional quality. So, of course, Aretha Franklin has an exceptional quality. She has her beautiful voice, her amazing and brilliant piano playing, and she's the first American in the series, the first woman, the first person of color, and she was able to alchemize her life into sonic gold.
My singing voice has always been my guardian angel. Keeps me safe. It feels good to share with the world that Black women contain genius, that we are geniuses. I need y'all to follow me because we're gonna get lost otherwise.
Cynthia Erivo is just phenomenal. It blows me away to hear how much she sounds like Aretha and how she embodies her.
As just a fan of Aretha, I've listened to her music since I was little, and I was learning her music before I knew I was gonna be doing anything like this. We gonna look good, we gonna feel good. Yes.
This is a big show. We have a lot of costume changes. A lot of the pieces that I've done also replicates what she actually wore at certain events that we want to honor in the series.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We're allowing the audience access to what it was like for her back then. And there was a lot of stress and trauma, and you learn those things and you just go, how did she become Aretha Franklin as we know her?
The idea that she was able to combine her music with activism is really special, and I don't know that people realize that she was an activist. They shoot us down like dogs, like our lives ain't worth nothing. It's time to make a stand.
People forget how powerful music can be considered, and she used that power to empower the rest of her community.
You got to disturb the peace when you can't get no peace.
That's why we celebrate her. She's the queen of soul. Your soul, mine, everybody's. She earned that crown.
All right, that's out this fall on National.
Ooh, that was almost melanin magic right there. I got good everywhere. Yes.
For sure. Hey, look, it's 12 o'clock on the dot. We're going to get out of here. I'm already standing on this side, Trey.
You know I am, brother.
All right. So before we get out of here, I think we might carry some of the Solidarity Budget press conference. It's always weird over Zoom and stuff, but we'll see how that goes. And otherwise, we're back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.